Good people, what's going on? It's Tony Haynes, aka Tony the Dome on Twitter from instadome.com, man. So this episode one, man, it's been a while since I recorded. It's been a while since I've been on YouTube like that outside of that time in hip hop with my partner Vague or championship round boxing with Vague again and my man Robert. So yeah, we're gonna jump right in episode one of the Dome podcast, also going to be known as the Flowers Podcast. As you know, I do a lot of Flowers tweets on Twitter, just showing love to musicians from all different genres. Have a good time with that, man. But today, whoo, we talking about the War of 1996 hip hop. Now, for most people, 1996 is a special year. It's probably one of the deepest years in hip hop history. You can look at 1988, 1994 was deep, 1998 was deep as well. 1996 was, a special time in the culture because, contrary to popular belief, a lot of people thought that, DMX bringing hardcore back in 98 because of the shiny suit era of 1997. Of course, it has some impact moving forward. That's another episode for another day. But before 1997 and Biggie passing away and Puff and Mace running the airways with 80 samples and things of that nature, you had summer 1996 where a few MCs and a few groups kind of waged war against the current state of hip hop at that time. So even though 1996 was deep with 20 or 30 amazing albums, you're talking about Hell on Earth, Mobb Deep, Nas, It Was Written, Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt, the Fugees, The Score. I mean, so De La Soul, Stakes is High, Roots, Ill Death, Half Life. Of course, Pac came out that spring with All Eyes on Me, his first Death Row release that was just massive double CD. Of course, later that year you had Machiavelli. Of course, I mean the list is long. We can talk about so many albums that year. I mean, I thought it was one of the greatest years ever, but there still was a war going on in the culture. You had the Roots, Ill Death Half Life, which is actually my favorite album of 1996. Amazing album all the way through. I mean, I loved Organics. A lot of people don't talk about Roots' first album. Do You Want More, the sophomore, which people think is the debut, but they put it all together. Malik B and Black Thought was just flawless on Ill Death Half Life. But I remember hearing Clones, and then I saw the video for What They Do. And when they did What They Do, it was definitely a mockery of, they didn't feel it, but it was kind of a mockery of New York hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like the champagne, the big house, the girls in the back. It was really mimicking a lot of to me, it was kind of mimicking some bad Biggie videos from Ready to Die. Not Life After Death, but it's kind of reminded me of some Ready to Die videos and just some other popular videos at that time, even some Mobb Deep videos because it showed them running, and what are you running from type thing, whatever. They had the champagne and, so they were definitely coming at New York hip hop to me. And then in that same vein, that summer De La Soul released Stakes is High, which is one of my favorite hip hop albums of that year and one of my favorite albums, period. In the culture. What was De La Soul doing? Stakes is High, produced by Jay Dilla. You saw True Gore's verse. I posted it recently on Twitter that I'm sick of. Sick of Versace glasses, sick of slang, sick of half-ass award shows, sick of name brand clothes, sick of R&B beats over bullshit tracks, cocaine and crack that brings sickness to rap. Sick of swole head rappers with their sickening raps. I mean, all of that stuff like that, And of course, Pasta News always throws shots. He threw shots on Stakes is High and threw shots on the album Stakes is High against a lot of people. So they were kind of going at not only just commercial hip hop, but kind of like the flossing hip hop, the mafia type of hip hop. So Stakes is High was doing that as well. Now, at the same time, speaking of that, the mafia type of hip hop, we know in 1995, Cuban Links dropped. Only been for Cuban Links with Ray and Ghost. I mean, that's kind of like Coke rap, Dope Boy rap. You know what I'm saying? It took kind of what Cool G Rap had done on 456 to another level because Wu Tang had hit massive acclaim and stuff by 1996, and of course Iron Man dropped in '96 as well, which it wasn't more. It wasn't like the Floss and the Cuban Links. It was kind of more personable with Ghostface, but nevertheless, De La Soul was kind of coming at all those kind of acts. We can act like it wasn't happening, but it was happening. You know what I'm saying? Now, with that summer, Nas drops It Was Written. We know he's Nas Escobar. He talked about being Nas Escobar on the Infamous album on Eye for an Eye, so we knew it was coming. But he went full fledged Nas Escobar on It Was Written. The Firm, you know what I'm saying, is on It Was Written. And that was a Street Dreams, you know what I'm saying? They kind of the video depicted like what Robert De Niro on Casino, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so you had that mafia type joint. Then you know Jay Z had Reasonable Doubt, still Dope Boy rap. You know what I'm saying? So even in the middle of them having those kind of albums, De La Soul was kind of coming at all of these groups in a subtle kind of way. Also during the durations of Stakes is High, like I said, Posse News made jabs on the track Den and It. He was like those West Coast kids that be throwing up signs. I hate a Buster, unless his name is Buster Rhymes. So just in me thinking back on that, you know, Tupac, West Coast throwing up signs at some point. Now we do know that De La Soul did kind of make a mockery out of Round and Round video and everything like that on Balloon Monster album, if I'm not mistaken. But that's we talking about that's 1993. You know, and at the same time, you know, Strictly for My Niggas came out, I believe, '93. So that was old. Why did Pop wait all the way Machiavelli? You know what I mean? He didn't say anything about De La Soul on All Eyes on Me. He didn't say anything about De La Soul on Me Against the World. But he said something about De La Soul on Machiavelli, and he said something about De La Soul on some unreleased Pac songs that started leaking a year or two and several years after he passed away. You know what I mean? Because matter of fact, on Me Against the World on the song Nothing Like the Old School, I remember De La Soul or something like this. So he gave De La Soul props on Me Against the World. So that makes me think that Pac had his ear to the streets, and I believe Pac heard Stakes is High because Pac was an avid hip hop head. Just like you can go back now on YouTube and watch several videos now that resurfaced that Pac was studying It Was Written before Machiavelli came out. So even though he had issues with Nas, he was studying It Was Written. These are facts. I know some Tupac fans don't want to believe this, but Pac was a fan of Nas, just like Nas was a fan of Pac. That's why they talked at Bryant Park, and at some point they was going to try to get together, and he was going to take Nas off of Machiavelli. But nevertheless, look at De La Soul, flabby and sick type thing on Machiavelli against all odds. You know what I'm saying? Because I believe he took that line from Den and Net, from Pasta Noose, and everything like that. West Coast kids throwing up signs, and I believe that kind of sparked Pac to want to go at De La Soul. So now we got a war going on. Now, it's because if Pac don't pass away, just because him and Nas might have scratched it up, and he was cool with Boot Camp and he was working on One Nation, he still had a problem with De La Soul, Mobb Deep, Biggie, and everyone else. So you still had a war going on in 1996 starting to brew in the culture. Because now you got to almost pick sides. Now you would think again that this would have started in '97, late '97, early '98. You know, when DMX was coming, Canibus was coming, Big Pun was coming, Nori, you know, and things of that nature like that to offset, you know, Bad Boy with Puff and Mace, you know, getting a shiny suit glitter on and, you know, and dancing and partying, which nothing was really wrong with that when you really think about it, because we had lost two giants in the culture to violence. So why not dance again and try to bring a better vibe? You know what I'm saying? So, and then of course Wu Tang Forever and everything like that came. But nevertheless, you had this war in 1996, and we're not done yet. Now you have J. Rue the Damager. He had already been making, you know what I'm saying, sparking a little bit of beef in '94 with Sunrise in the East. You know what I'm saying? But then he turns around with Wrath of the Math and makes it even worse. He's going One Day and all that stuff, right? He's going at uh, Bad Boy again, Foxy Brown, everybody. You know what I'm saying? So He's going at that vibe of flossy hip hop, gangster hip hop, because Jerry was still on that knowledge type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So now he's 2 albums in. Some people call Jerry Redemption a hater. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, he just wasn't feeling commercial hip hop. He wasn't feeling the same kind of vibe that the Roots were depicting on their album. You know what I'm saying? On Ill Death Half Life. So you got sides now. You got De La Soul. You got Jerry the Damage. You got the Roots and all of them. And on the other side, you actually have Tupac, Nas, Jay Z. At the same time, Foxy Brown and Kim dropped in '96. Uh, the Roots and De La Soul. I'm sick of shaking whatever. So there you go. They still you have two sides now in 1996. You almost have a civil war in 1996 that I don't think we talk about because we love that year so much. Because I think Exhibit dropped. Keith Murray I think did Enigma. Oh man, that year was just so man. Look up 1996 hip hop. Just Google it. You know what I mean? I can go down a whole list, but I'm not gonna do that. Just Google that year. You know what I'm saying? But we talk about how great that year was. ATLiens. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. But we don't talk about the clash. You know what I'm saying? We don't talk about the division of hip hop that started in 1996. It didn't start in 97, people. It didn't start in 98. A lot of people like to say, okay, well, DMX, like I said a few minutes ago, brought the East back. Jay Z was big, of course, in 1998, but he was still, he had underground hard joints and flossing. The Streets is Watching still gave him, the DVD and the soundtrack still gave him some credibility. So you still got to put him in the hardcore side. You had the Locks coming. Jay Z was bringing Beanie Sigel, I think, on what's the joint? Well, that's bleak on there. So nevertheless, um, back in 1996, you just had this whole situation of the radio, the videos, the video vixens, you know what I'm saying, the dope boy rap, and then you have these groups that kind of, kind of was depicting that, was kind of clowning that, man. So it's just really interesting when we think about how that year went and looking back at it, you know what I'm saying? Like we never look at the division because you still stuck on Biggie and Tupac. You know what I'm saying? Because Pac, of course, Hit 'Em Up came out, that year. You know what I'm saying? So now you got Tupac going that Bad Boy, and I think that overshadowed everything else that was kind of going on. You know, and even though Biggie didn't really respond directly, it was still East Coast, West Coast going on from 94, like 95, 96. Of course, it did start with, Tim Dog and everyone in the earlier 90s, you know what I'm saying? Because you still had Tim Dog going at F. Compton, you know what I'm saying? And so you had some little shots here and there, but at the same time, while the Chronic and Doggy Style was rocking, the East Coast might have felt a certain kind of way. Maybe the artist felt some jealousy or something like that. But the fans loved Dr. Dre and Snoop. So the East Coast, West Coast at that time really didn't mean anything because Dre and Snoop was going more in at Luke a little bit, but Luke was in the deep south in Florida, and Snoop and Dre was going at Easy E. You know what I'm saying? So that didn't really spill over to East and West Coast until the Dog Pound dropped New York, New York. You know what I'm saying? They dropped their album in 95, which predates this 96 conversation we're having, but it did spill over into 96 and stuff like that. Of course, you did have Capone and Noriega dropping LA, LA. Prodigy was on the original track, but he didn't want his verse to make it to the final cut and to the video, so they just used him for the hook and what have you. So that's kind of how that went. So during that same time, you had that situation going on, and of course the conflict with Tupac and Mobb Deep. And, again, like I said, with the whole hit 'em up thing in '96 and All Eyes on Me, and Tupac trying to establish his dominance, it kind of overshadowed, what I'm saying, a lot of other things that was going on. Now, how far was that gonna go? It didn't spill over to 1997 when they came to the Roots and De La Soul and Jeru the Damage. At some point, Jeru kind of fizzled out because I think that his relationship at that time with Primo started deteriorating. So whatever he did after Wrath of the Math, it just didn't hit anymore. De La Soul kind of went on to do other things. They didn't really focus on that the same thing they focused on Stakes is High. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of happened like that. This is all just really for 1996, man. So it's funny. Like, what do you guys think about 1996 when it comes to the division? Do you feel like this was leading into the shiny suit era, and these other acts start seeing that? You know what I'm saying? Could we see it coming? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, again, Biggie Smalls had, I love when they call him Big Papa. In 1995, Junior Mafia blew up. Big was definitely flossing on Junior Mafia songs and on his own tracks. You start seeing him wearing the Versace and all that, and that's what was also addressed when Helter Skelter dropped. You know what I'm saying? And the LaFleur, LaFly, Skoska, and Operation Lockdown, I believe, something like that. They started talking at the end of the album about, you know what I'm saying, about this talking about Foxy also when she was breaking down the dope and all that. They were talking about the way people were dressing, and we know OGC, Boot Camp, and all of them had issues, some kind of issue with Biggie Smalls because OGC, the Storm video, what have you, they was making a mockery out of Biggie, had a fake Biggie and Puff, I think, on there. You know what I'm saying? And also Biggie, of course, addressed this when Life of the Death dropped in early 1997. Now, the reason I bring that up is because Biggie obviously was taking notes throughout 1996 because when you record an album, Life After Death dropped first quarter of 1997. He was writing those rhymes or putting those rhymes together in 1996, which still kind of goes to what I was talking about. There's a lot of things going on in 95, 96. Lil Kim and Foxy, at some point late 96, they dropped a week apart. But there was tension already with Foxy and Kim, even though at some point they was both on the cover of The Source and stuff like that. At some point, they had issues. So he had a lot of pockets in 1996 creating this kind of, like I said, tension. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, this was East Coast against East Coast. You know what I'm saying? So you had East and West, where you had Pac against the East to a degree, but you also had a lot of East Coast kind of going at each other, man. Like I said, the Roots from Philly. You know what I'm saying? They made a note, you know what I'm saying, to kind of make a marker out of New York because Philadelphia artists at the time, first of all, they weren't really large at the time, and the ones that did have songs and videos, their songs and videos didn't look like New York songs and videos. You know what I mean? So we know that the Roots was making an attempt to play New York hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Of course, later they end up a couple of years later they working with Jay-Z to unplug. They're doing all this, and I think even at one point Nas made a comment about the Roots on one of his radio rants. He didn't do many, but Nas had a few radio rants, and I want to say he said something about the Roots at some point also. And of course, that comment he made about the Roots, he was talking about how they kind of made a mockery of the legacy of Biggie and Mobb Deep and all of them. And he didn't say himself, but also himself, because at the time he was still close to Mobb Deep. He was on several Mobb Deep, Mobb Deep albums back to back. You know what I mean? So he had a close relationship with them at the time, or at least with Havoc, because Havoc was from Queensbridge. You know what I'm saying? So you had that situation. So, oh man, I mean, just thinking back, it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So what do you guys think about that, man? I'm gonna keep this one short, episode 1. I wanted to make sure that we just kind of get the ball rolling. Man, we're gonna talk about a lot of things with hip hop. We're gonna talk about a lot of people well deserving of flowers that we often overlook. But I also want to give flowers to 1996 overall because this was absolutely an amazing year. It was absolutely filled with bangers. It was filled with classic material, classic albums. I mean, Mobb Deep, Hell on Earth had Drop a Gem on them, you know what I'm saying, versus Pac. Again, you also had Sauce Money and Jay-Z had that song that wasn't released for years later called Dead or Alive. And the extended version, Jay-Z mentioned Machiavelli in that verse. I like to think that song was done, recorded while Pac was alive. And of course, it didn't leak later. I think Clark Kent even alluded to Jay-Z and Sauce Money and them was at the Apollo and did a freestyle or did that song with some extra verses or something like that. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but nobody has footage of that. We don't know how true that is or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? But man, what an exciting year, man. What do you guys think about 1996, man? Welcome to the Dome Podcast, man. Episode 1. Peace.